I was in college. My roommate and I, we decided to get a dog, and that was probably the worst decision I've ever made. And I think for 22 years old, I think I'm doing pretty good. You know, that's the worst decision. But so we, one night, for months, we're looking to get this dog, and it was the last night where I was like, "Fuck it, dude, we're not getting a dog." He was like, "No, we're getting a dog." He's like, "I'm gonna look. This will be the last night I look, on Craigslist." Fuck me, he found one. He found a dog, and we called the guy up and we're like, "Hey, we're interested. When can we come get her? We saw, $130." And he's like, "Oh, why don't you come now?" We're like, "Well, it's 10 o'clock on a Tuesday." He's like, "No, just come." I'm like, "All right. I mean, you're like a half hour away from us. Screw it, we'll come." So we get in the car. We get in his friggin', Galant or whatever shit car he has, and it's like a blizzard. We're up in like the boonies of upstate New York. When the car is swerving, the snow is just pouring. It's me, my roommate, and his shitty now ex-girlfriend. And so finally, we're out there. We pull into the driveway. We're in the middle of the woods. I have no idea where we were, actually, still to this day. And so we get out of the car. We go to the porch. We knock on the door. We're like, the guy comes to the door. It's just this disheveled man. I don't even know. It's just some drunk. He's like, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, we just talked on the phone like a half hour ago. We're here to get the dog." And like, he opens up the screen door. 5 dogs come flying out of the house. I'm like, "Oh, is that her?" Like, no, those are my dogs. He's like, "Hold on 1 second, though." He goes into his kitchen, takes a huge thing of chewing tobacco, puts it in a cup, takes a shot of Jameson, and he's like, "All right, let's go to the back." And I'm like, all right. And so we go to the back. It's still like flurrying. We go to this pen that he has set up, and we go back there, and there's a lamp just swinging back and forth. I'm like, well, that's like unsafe. You can't have a dog in there. There's a fucking bull swinging back and forth. This creature just comes out of this little doghouse, and my roommate, picks her up, and I look at him, and he's like, "We're getting her, dude." And I'm like, all right, and then, so I'm looking at her, I'm like, "Oh, $130, and then I see she's just filled with scabs on the top of her head. I'm like, I go to the guy, I'm like, "Dude, like, there's that's not advertised in the picture. She had a clean head when I saw her." So then he's like, yeah, she was playing with her sister, in the pen, and I think she bumped her head on the light bulb. I'm like, well, why is there a light bulb swinging around in her pen? I mean, that's not safe. I'm like, well, she's got a few scabs, so how about we call it $100? And my roommate's ex-girlfriend at the time, she's like, "Crap." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "That's $30 worth of scabs." Let's knock the price a little bit. And then the guy's like, "Nope, I can only do it for $130. I'm like, "Really, guy? Like, you can only do it for $130? Like, that $30 is making it or breaking it for you? You're not gonna get anybody else to come up here and fucking God knows where to put this dog." So I'm like, "Fuck it, I'll give you the $130, whatever." Then we get back in the car. We barely make it home. We throw this little thing on the kitchen floor. Everybody that was over that night, she's like, "Oh, little puppy, whatever, dogging at it." And so then first got her, I'm like, "Oh, we gotta train her. We gotta, she's gonna be going in the house. We gotta make sure we take her out every couple hours." And obviously we didn't really do that. And but for the first week or two, she wasn't going in the house. And we were like, "This is fucking awesome." We were like, we got a dog that was already trained. She was only going out, she was only pissing and shitting outside. And then after 2 weeks, we're smelling, there's just a terrible odor in the apartment. I'm just like, what is that? We're not finding anything in the house. And, so a couple more days go by, and now I'm looking for stuff around the apartment, and I'm going by the couch, and I'm like, oh, you find, my roommate's like, "You find the remote?" I'm like, "No, I found something else." "What, shit?" I'm like, "Yup." He's like, "Well, is it soft or hard?" I'm like, No. This is hard as a rock. He's like, "Oh, good, it's an old one then." Like, what do you mean good, it's an old? They're all going to be old. We're not going to find any new ones. We haven't found anything around the apartment. So it turns out that this dog was trained. She was trained to shit in places that you can't find it. Like, that was what she was trained to do. I'd be going to do my laundry after a few weeks, and take all the laundry out of the basket, and I find a turd at the bottom of the basket. You're not supposed to be finding shit at the bottom of your laundry basket. So, and I go to go outside, put my left shoe on, tie it up, put my right shoe on, I step in shit inside my shoe. You're not supposed to step in shit in your shoe. You're supposed to step in shit with your shoe on, goddammit. That's not, that's not supposed to be happening. And this was happening for months. We'd be having people over and we'd be drinking, and people would be like, dude, why is your dog so retarded? And we'd be like, well, what do you mean? Like, well, it doesn't know its name, it doesn't know paw, it doesn't know the basics, dude. Like, we're just, for a while we were like, oh, well, we blame it on the drunk that had her before us, or whatever we decided to make up that night. And then, like, after about a year of having her now, I think that I finally realized, why the dog was maybe so retarded. And I think that's because every time the dog got really hyper and started sprinting around the apartment like it had its own personal track, we would grab it, hold her down, blow smoke in her face, get her high, and make her fall asleep. And I think that wasn't the best alternative to a walk. And so I got rid of the dog, and now I got a fish tank, and I think that's doing a lot better. Yeah, just let it sit there. So, but I'm Greg Falk, and nice to meet you.